because Larry already introduced, but I just wanted to again reintroduce Susan Weiss, who is one of our very good friends and also a super cheerleader for NACRA. She's also a life member of NACRA. Larry is as well, and we're going to get Stephen pretty soon as a life member. But she was, what? Are we all set? Susan was the Vice President for Advocacy for ASA, and she worked very closely with NACRA and with Charlie and all of us. She's watched us grow and evolve from a developing organization into a professional association dedicated to all of our members. As Larry said, Susan married and moved to Wisconsin, and I know she's very happy with her husband, but we miss her something fierce. And so every time that we've had a meeting where she can come, she has done that, because she is a great source of inspiration for us. And it's my honor to introduce Susan Weiss, who will then talk about Charlie and their association.
This won't be long, but not as long as a friendship with Charlie. I tell you though, following Larry Minix is like being on the wrong side of the rapture. It's a hard job. When I retired, I thought I would never see you again. And that was very sad for me. So when Ruth invited me to this to say a few words about Charlie, I just jumped at that chance. This relationship with NACA started when Larry called me into his office one day. A lot of relationships start when you're called into Larry's office one day. And he said, I want you to work with NACA as ASA's representative, ASA's liaison. And of course I was going to say yes, I had no question about that. But I had learned about NACA through the eyes of our members with the notion and the discomfort that they were suspicious of NACA. So I said, hey, thanks, Larry. I arrived early at the first meeting, and there was Charlie. Where's Charlie? Oh, there's Charlie. After I met Charlie, I knew that this was going to be the chance of a lifetime involved with people who were committed to this field in a special way. Charlie's job was to get to the point nicely. That's what Charlie did. And he knew that the rest of the NACRA members could change this field by themselves and with cooperation of their management. Charlie led that change, and over the years, Charlie became a close professional mentor to me and a friend to me about how to lead change without becoming public enemy number one. And this meeting is a sign of that. This meeting is larger than any NACRA meeting I've ever attended. Charlie also became a close personal friend who knows that he can tease without offending at least most of the time. Ruth mentioned that I had gotten married during the time I met Charlie, and that was 3 years ago, and now every single conversation with Charlie says, where's the husband? And so I say to him, hi Charlie, how you doing? Nice to see you too. And I say then, again, nice to see you, Charlie. And he says, I don't believe you have a husband. So this year I brought a picture, and I'm not sure Charlie's convinced, but it's a picture of me with a guy, so I mean, it's as close as I can get to pleasing him. Charlie's had a rough year, and Laverne and their 3 daughters have also had a rough year. But when I saw him at the board meeting last night, along with the other members of that great board, and it is a great board, I knew that everybody had gotten him back in the game. And in a lot of Charlie is responsible for the panel here today and the meeting itself. I'm here because I miss all of you very much. Larry and Steve are here because you're very important. You're very important in changing the way that residents and management work together. I'm crazy about NACA, members and their leadership. And I'm crazy about Charlie Paulk because of how he changed this field and how he changed me too. He's the best teacher I have ever had. So thanks, Charlie, for everything over the years.
Thanks so much, Susan. We're going to raise this up a little and hope I don't hear echoes. Oh. Okay, so, and I'm just so delighted that you're here and you come and visit us when we're in Dallas coming up. There are many people that I would like to introduce you to. Some may be strangers to you and others are not, but first person is Brian, our dear Brian, who's CEO and Executive Director of the Estates at Carpenter. He's been so cordial and so helpful as we sought to organize this annual meeting. He's been at Carpenter's for 15 years. I know he's very active in the Lakeland community and is a real can-do executive. And in addition to that, he's from New Hampshire. So, so we have a little bit of New England there too. So very, very glad. And if you just offer your greetings. Oh, yeah. After I made him come back, you gotta say a few words.
Thank you. And it truly will be just a few words because I was commenting to my executive assistant that I believe by now you've been welcome to the Estates on 3, 4, 5 occasions. We had city commissioners welcoming you to the city. I will say for the Estates, it's an honor to be able to host a meeting like this. We have hosted FLICRA's annual meeting on a couple of occasions, but this really underscores what we believe is the importance of residents and management working together and forming that partnership. And Charlie has shared with us some discussions of several of the visits that he has made to communities around the country where that type of a relationship is not as prevalent. And I would say on behalf of management, that's sad. So when you look around the beautiful first floor renovations, it all occurred over the last couple months of 2012 and the first month of 2013. For our residents, they know there were residents involved with the selections of the finishes. There were residents involved with the selection of everything that was done because it is your home. So we would ask that other management, other members of management or administration or whatever they like to call themselves, open that door and see the future of these communities as partnerships, because there's going to be a lot of change that's going to happen, as Larry and others have spoken about, and Charlie in particular, as these communities move forward to serve a generation that doesn't truly understand what we're all about. So I guess for the 5th time today, welcome to the Estates of Carpenters in Lakeland, Florida. And if there's anything we can do to make your stay just a little bit better, let us know. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And Bill Fisackerly, I'm not saying this properly.
You're doing good.
Is chairman of the Residents Council here at Carpenters. He's very deeply involved with all here at Carpenters and in the Florida organization, and is most knowledgeable about the inner workings of both. I'm sure that he and the past president was Rory O'More. Is he here, Rory?
He was here.
He was here. But we know that they'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And so, Bill.
Again, just a few minutes, but I do want to recognize the fact that it is not just me who is welcoming you here, but the residents here at Carpenters. I'd like all Carpenters residents to put their hands up. Let me see them. Look around you there. Look around you. And if you want to find out something about Carpenters, talk to these folks with their hands up. They do a good job. Now, some of the folks that don't have their hands up, as a friend of yours, you mentioned the armadillo. We do have the armadillo here, and his main desire is to burrow under the buildings. And Brian and his yard crew have a fun time staying ahead of the armadillo. You might see little stakes all around to keep them from burrowing underneath our buildings, but so far we have kept them out. We also have 3 swans in the duck pond out here that are much part of our residence group. We have 2 whites and 1 black. Now, I won't go into explaining of that, but you might want to talk to some folks about that. We also have a Muscovy mother duck who was escorting 15 baby ducks around the campus. Now you might see them, but they're part of our family too. It's interesting that of those 15 ducks, 3 of them look a different lighter tone. And we those of you who know ducks might help us figure that out. I don't know. We also realize that we've got a family of red foxes over here, so we are our nature preserves in some very special way. But we enjoy the fact that we live in a community where we can relax and be a part of nature around us, and get out in our heated pool and enjoy the day, no matter what the weather is. We should realize also that one thing we're trying to do, as I begin my presidency, which began very coincidentally on April Fool's Day. And so I'm following a very fine, dedicated president who did some great work. But we're having our planning conference for our own officers this next Monday. And we're going to try to follow a theme for this next year: affirming our neighbors every day. That's what we try to do in a home where we all live together, affirming our neighbors every day. And that's an acrostic for A1. And we want to keep confidence A1. I would like also, before I sit down, to ask all of our friends at Presbyterian to put their hands up. I want to see our Presbyterian delegates put their hands up. I know I've got here and here and there, they're all around. So we can all tell you how good it is to live in Lakeland.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Is there any significance with the fountain out in the lake? Is that different colors of lights for different seasons?
At Christmas we put a red and green out.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
It's very, very pretty. I'm also very honored to present to you the president of the Florida Association, Noel Birdsall. He is from Vero Beach, so that was a little trip across the state. Is he here? No, there you are. And so we just wanted to thank him, and come on up and say a few words if you would.
I don't even know how much time I have. So first, yeah.
Whatever you need, like 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, the story goes, somebody called me and asked me if I would make a presentation here, and I said, sure. I said, how long you want me to talk? He said, 25 minutes. And I said, that's fine, let's do that. And I wrote that speech out, and I get an email, maybe, I don't know, somebody called and said, have you heard about the speech? I said, yeah, the guy told me, and I'm all ready to go, 25 minutes. Oh, no, 12 seconds.
I gave you 5 minutes.
So, first of all, I want to bring the congratulations to Charles. He has done an outstanding job. He is an outstanding person. And the way I got this job, I was making a speech at one of our chapters, and he comes wheeling in his wheelchair up to me, and he says, how about you be president? And I thought, well, I hadn't thought about it, but I might as well consider it. And so I said, I'll think about it. And he goes into the meeting, makes his speech, and then introduces me as the next president. He didn't take no for an answer, you know. But a great, great gentleman and full of wisdom. I really admire him very much. But I did want to extend a warm Florida welcome to all of you and everyone here this morning, but especially to the NACRA representatives from all over the United States. It's a momentous occasion for you and its annual meeting in Florida, and Fleischler having been involved with the birth of NACRA very heavily and with the early formation. I'm honored personally because I have a small role in the meeting because Patrick Lyon, a resident of the Indian River Estates where Pat, my wife, and I live, helped create Fleischler. And his friends were the initial architects of FLACRA, and later, many of you, and Charles again, the current past president of FLACRA, performed the same role for NACRA. And so they've gone through the same birth organization. So it is very fitting for all of us to be meeting here this morning. And at this time, I will ask you to join me in a slight moment of memory for those whose actions led to this historical occasion and have passed away, but provided sound leadership and got the ball rolling, and we are benefiting from their efforts. So if you would stand for a couple of seconds in memory of not only Milt Brummer, but there were quite a few, Pat, Ryan, Levine, and let's all give thanks that we had just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I also want to say that I agree with the conversations we've had here this morning about working together as the only way it'll work. And I totally support that. And in a way that hasn't been particularly mentioned, but I find my major concern personally is the perpetuation of the CCRC concept. I'm afraid that if proper attention isn't paid to that by everyone, but especially by the residents. The residents are the major salespeople for CCRCs. But there are some people on the fringes and the sideline that now think maybe CCRCs are not for them. And some of them feel that they don't like to live in a group house and this type of thing. And so it's up to us as the residents to try to explain to them that this is not a problem. And if we don't sell these units, and a lot of people are having a very hard time getting some people in, then we're going to be there for maybe 20, 30 years. There's a gentleman with me that's been there for at least that long. And they could disappear if there is no longer an incentive for people to move in there. So I will end my speech with that. I would just like to ask all of you to think about it. And remember, we have to perpetuate this concept of CCRCs. It's been around for centuries. All right, the Shakers had them. You know, the number of religious organizations had them. So they're not a new idea. And they have to have some new twist put in them to make them acceptable to the current generation. But we can do it. We can do it working together. Thank you.
And Milt is so right, we can indeed do it. Just working together and sharing. We extend our thanks to and greetings to all the members of the FLACRA. And also I know there are some people from out of state who are here. I'm going to introduce, you've met Larry. I'm going to introduce Stephen Magg to you, who will be our speaker sometime this afternoon. He's Director of Residential Communities throughout the leading age world. He's a dynamic speaker and will bring us a quick update on what's happening in the District of Columbia and that population. There'll be a time for questions of Stephen, and he has to catch a plane later on today, so we'll catch him this afternoon. Catherine Pearson is, where did I see? Yeah, there she is. She's going to be our luncheon speaker, and she comes to us from Penn State University, where she's a professor of law at the Dickinson School of Law. She's director of Penn State's Elder Law and Consumer Protection Clinic, and she is really wonderful. We also are going to have Jane Gale Boyd with us tomorrow afternoon for luncheon. She is the executive director of Leading Age Florida. She's a wonderful speaker, and she's looking forward to being with us tomorrow. We don't have a head table on purpose because we felt it's very important that everyone get a chance to meet everybody in an informal setting. And it's not us and them, it's us and all of us together. So you've introduced yourself to your table mates, I hope. And just really quickly, I'm just going to ask those people, don't hold your, or don't, we won't applaud anybody till we get everybody done. But past President Jack Matheson from Washington is not able to be with us, but he is a resident at the Thomas Circle in Washington. Here from the Pacific Northwest is our Vice President for Membership, Bob Nicholson. Who's dynamite? Yeah, what can I tell you?
Keep that rumor alive.
Yeah. Vice President for Public Relations is Judy Moss from Palo Alto, California. Our treasurer is Joe Walton in the back. He resides at Seabury Community in Bloomfield, Connecticut. He has many and varied duties from preparing financial statements and so forth. So he's busy and worked very closely with Bennett Napier, and I know you all from Florida know Bennett well. Introduce our Charlie. Walt Boyer is from Asheville at Deerfield, and you'll hear from Walt in the morning. Jack Cumming from Carlsbad by the Sea in California. He's also a good friend. He also edits NACRA University, and he's going to speak to us about that. It's a dynamite resource for us all. Marlene Varner, who started, I guess, living in CCRCs right here. And where is the lady that you used to check the hall monitor? Is she still here?
I don't think Val Baker was mine.
She's not here right now. Do you want to just quick, what you all used to do?
What we used to do, by 9 o'clock in the morning, we went up and down the hall and made sure everybody had opened their door and the little flag had come down. And if the little flag hadn't come down, we would call the front desk, they would make a call. They didn't get an answer, then with the nurse and a security representative, we would go in and check on our neighbors. And occasionally, we were really to the rescue when someone had fallen. Because you know, when you fall, if you can't get to the pull cord, you aren't in a very good way. So that was a wonderful experience to be able to share checking on your neighbors. And I was lucky enough that one of my neighbors was Bob Smith.
Yes, that's right.
That's why you moved out.
Well, Marlene is communications director for us, and she's editor and publisher of the NACRA Lifeline, and truly, as I tell her 85 times, she is our lifeline, because it is the fine work that you do that lets everybody know who we are, what we're doing. And I appreciate that so much. We have a brand new member of the board, Dan Seeger, who is going to be our secretary. He's from Pennswood Village in Newtown, Pennsylvania. Thank you. Ron Herring from the Glebe in Daleville, Virginia. Where's Ron? I know I saw. There you are. And he's a nominee for the position of president-elect of NACRA. Beth High is from Lake Ridge in Virginia, and she's chairman of the nominating committee, and just a wonderful friend and mentor and everything else, and she's really great. As we proceed through the meeting, you will formally meet the board of directors designated by the newly amended bylaws. And we're going to proceed on then with the agenda and making necessary changes as we do. What you see on your agenda is not necessarily the order in which things are going to happen. We'll get through the agenda, but we have to make accommodations for plane trips and this sort of thing. So, and we are going to need to take some break time just for you to stretch your legs. So everybody just know that we have had a very action-packed morning and a really great tribute to our dear, dear Charlie. And we're just so pleased. And anyway, shortly, it is now 11:30, and we're going to, what time, Brian, for lunch? 12 o'clock? Yeah, 12? Okay. Okay, so because we're going to do this, what I think we'll do is we're going to kind of call the annual meeting to order in order to talk about our secretary's minutes. And our new secretary is going to be Dan Seeger. Al LeBlanc was from Fraser Meadows in Boulder, Colorado, and he published the minutes of the 19th and 20th of October when we met in Denver. Those minutes were published in the Lifeline. And so what we're going to do is I'd assume that you read those and hope that there are no corrections to those minutes. And if there are no corrections or statement, we're going to call those minutes approved as presented. And Al has found it necessary to resign because his wife is very ill and he needs to be at Fraser Meadows. But he extends great greetings and all to us all because he has been a great friend to us all. And so I would ask that we entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Al LeBlanc as Secretary of NACRA. Anybody can make that motion. Walt Boyer is making that motion. Second by Bob. And we will extend to Al our deep regrets that he had to resign. So without further ado, if there are no objections and all in favor of accepting the resignation with regret, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And again, and Susan could vote because she's also a life member. So there we are. So Brian, we're going to get you as a life member.
Brian is also a life.
Yeah, yes, that's right. He is a life member. So that puts us in good state. Now, our treasurer is my good friend Joe Walton from Seabury, which is nearest to Hartford, and we're in the Stone Ridge is on the far eastern part of the state. Joe's kind of in the middle of the state, and Seabury is a glorious spot. And so anyway, Joe's been a very good friend, and he's been working very diligently on our financial situation and working very, very closely with Bennett Naffier. So could you want to give us a financial report?
Lay it on, Joe.
I will be very quick because I am very, at my age, conscious of time and efficient use of time. At my age, I can almost calculate my life expectancy in my head to the point where getting in the wrong line at the grocery store is a trauma for me. Very briefly, from a financial viewpoint, we are in the best shape ever. There's a lot more work to do. Revenue was up, dues revenue was up last year 26% from where it was 2 years ago. Our donations annually are about $17,000 a year. So that's very healthy. We set a new record in 2012 on the revenue side. We also set a new record on the expense side, the highest it's ever been. But for all of the good reasons, we're making better use of your money, providing more benefits to our members, being better stewards of your money than we have ever had before. Part of that has become about by the consolidation of administrative functions. When I took this job, the task of paying all of the bills and accounting for the money was done on a volunteer basis. And now we've put that in professional hands, and we've consolidated the entire function of collecting money. So we're in good shape. As Charlie has alluded in his keynote remarks, we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. Among those, to vastly increase the number of our members. We have several projects underway. They are at various stages, but they're all very exciting and very promising. Bottom line here, we're in good shape. We can get better. We are going to get better. The best is yet to be, so stay with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And his report will be filed and published in the next edition of the Lifeline. We have a wonderful vice president in charge of membership. You want to say? Wait. Bob Galt. Where's Bob? Right there. The treasurer of what, Lightbrook? NACRA. Oh, oh yes, I remember your name in the lifeline, yes. So could you just raise your hand or just say, hey, thank you. So anyway, this is a very gallant man who's a good friend from Seattle, Washington, Bob Nicholson. And he will leave you breathless.
I'll tell you, the week that I don't get advice from her on what to do is a week wasted. Thank you very much. The good news is that since January 1, 1911, help me again with the century, the January 1, 2011, we have doubled the membership of NACRA. So we're about 1,200. Joe has liked me more every month as the new members come in and the income goes up. Our relationship was very tenuous 2 years ago. It's improved, and I hope in another year we'll be good friends. That's against the backdrop of being traumatized by the now elevated to sainthood Charles Paulk, who says, Bob, next year and for the next 4 years, we need 50,000 new members every year. And that's when I talked to my cardiologist about my heart condition. Historically, the most significant thing that has happened in the history of NACRA, you heard here an hour ago when Larry Minnick said, we need to build a partnership to build the membership of NACRA and the partnership between NACRA and Leading Age. They have 38 states where they have partnerships with aging services organizations. Most of those states have no NACRA members. A part of the membership report is the good news that in sort of shirt tail itineration that I've done, not at Joe's expense, is that we now have a member in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. We have a member in Texas. We have 12 new members that we had 0 in Oregon. We have about 62 new members where we had 0 members in the state of Washington. We have an enormous task before us. And do you know who is a member of the membership committee? You are. Because just as was said, you market your communities for potential residents. You are the marketers for NACRA. Please join us in that endeavor. The statistics are these. We have 213 lifetime members. I've slipped a little sentence in Washington and Oregon that says, you know, it's $15. Joe'd like more money. I keep referring to him because he's always on my case and always on my mind. $15 isn't a lot of money. $15, in fact, is a nuisance to people who say, oh gosh, I've got to send that in. So I put the sentence in the letters, why don't you just make the one-time gift of $150 and get it over with? It's a charitable gift. It's a worthy cause. You give to other charitable causes. This is a charitable cause that deserves support. Everybody in this room should move from $15 to a one-time gift. And guess what? When you don't renew, we have to spend postage to send you one invoice. That's not enough. We send you a second invoice. That's not enough. A board member has to stop what they're doing and call you. That's not enough. And finally, after about 90 days, we say, golly, we're sorry that you had to leave us. Why should we have to pay that kind of money and use that kind of energy when you could just make a one-time contribution It's probably the least you will give to any charity. The least you would give to any charity. Do it now. Become a lifetime member. Reduce our overhead expense to free up money to do the important work that Larry Minnick's talked about. So we have 213 lifetime members. We have about 890 regular members, 40 community associations, 9 state associations, for about 1,200 members altogether. If any of you are going to Dallas for the October 27-30 meeting of Leading Age at our NACRA meeting, I encourage you to do that. It has been a transforming experience for residents from both Washington and Oregon. We are out on the frontier. It takes a lot of time for news and information to get out there, and they're beginning to realize that there's life on the other side of the Mississippi. And we've had them participate in Washington, D.C., and they even came to Denver. If any of you want to do that, NACRA has booked a block of rooms at $79 in a hotel that's within 0.7 miles of the convention center that serves breakfast as a part of the $79 and has a free shuttle. I have stuck my neck out and said, I'll guarantee the rooms. If any of you want to do that, you've got to tell me today or tomorrow before you leave, and I have to have a blood promise that if you don't show up, God will get you.
He keeps us on our toes. We have a vice president for legislation, who's Julia Hicks, who could not be with us today, and so she filed a report. And we have a vice president for public relations, who is Judy Moss. Do you have any report to make for us? Judy has had some health issues, so.
We all have. Just,
Where did they see those?
Testing, testing, tasting.
good tester. Just that anybody who has any connections with your local newspapers, your alumni magazines that want publication, if you let me know the details, we will get some publicity for you, and more important, for NACRA, if you tell us that you've been at the conference and what you've accomplished here. We'll try and get it published. Thank you.
Thank you. There's one other very special person I would like to introduce you to, whose name is Ron Herring. He's the new nominee for president-elect of NACRA. All things being equal, he will take office at the Leading Age, or at our annual meeting come April of 2014. We haven't yet decided which CCRC will be the host, but it should be a very great one, and it'll probably be on the East Coast someplace. Ron is a resident of the Glebe in Daleville, Virginia, and has a vast experience in the realm of home and services for the aging. It was he who interjected the thought that it is absolutely vital that each one of us think outside of the box. Because we've always done it this way doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best way. And so we are beginning to think outside of the box. And as this meeting progresses, you will see that because we've always done it this way is not necessarily the way it's going to continue to be. We are innovating. We are thinking ahead. We are communicating. And as he urged, as we progress with our new mission and vision statements, we are moving NACRA into uncharted water. As we work and plan for the long-term future of NACRA, things are going to be different. We are innovating, and I hope you will just fasten your seatbelts and come along for the ride, because it's going to be very exciting. We are planning for the future of NACRA, and with good friends such as Larry and the Leading Age, we cannot miss, with enthusiastic members and all of the good things that are happening. The world is changing, and we need to think differently about how we move our ship of state forward. We are not going to sink, daggone it. We are going to keep, as Charles W. Morgan is, we're going to put them out and go out to sale, and we're going to have a wonderful time, full sale. We are thinkers, we are analyzers, we are planners, doers, and together we can accomplish what a lot of people say, it can't be done. We're going to do it. We thank you for helping us take giant steps, and I'm really looking forward to you hearing Ron, because he is going to be a dynamite leader. Ron, got a minute?
A minute?
Yeah, or no, you got 10?
I have a minute.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
This will be the longest minute in history. As I sat back and I listened to all the presentations, I could capture most of the message that most of the people here today have tried to communicate to us. One person made me so tired before I even started in this role, and that was Charlie. I thought twice about this. But what they're talking about is change and the challenge of change. Change is a difficult thing. The older you get, the harder change is. I found that to be true. I think you have found that to be true. But we have to make those changes. If we do not make them, what will happen is that we won't be here 10 years from now. I would predict that. One of the things that I did in my career in the child welfare system in the Commonwealth of Virginia was I closed the children's institution that was almost 100 years old. As a CEO, if you want to try that more than once in your career, don't. But it had to happen. I had a board member who, in a board presentation I made on that plan, who said to me, Ron, how do you know this will work? I wasn't quite prepared for his question. So I thought for a moment, and I said, I don't. I said, what I do know, however, that if we don't make some change, 10 years from now we won't be here. That I was fairly comfortable with. So what we're hearing is the challenge to us is the challenge of change into the future. And it will only happen with us. And we will have to make sure that we do it on solid ground. We can't do it with rhetoric. We have to do it with good planning and astute use of expert resources to get where we want to go. So I'm humbled by the opportunity, but excited about the challenge. So we will see where we will go from here. Now, a couple of comments about what kind of leadership in the future I might provide. And the comments will be related to what happened to me yesterday. I rented a car that had a key that got stuck in the ignition and I couldn't go anywhere. That's the first thing. The second thing was, I missed the first meeting here because of that. So I missed the first meeting and I had a car that wouldn't run because the key got stuck in the ignition. And I thought, wait a minute, what am I being told here? But I'm pleased to be on board. I'm the kind of individual that thrives on change. I think I know enough about myself that I thrive on change. I like change, but I've learned not to be reckless with change. So whatever I can contribute in a leadership role for NACRA out into the future, I'm here to serve you and those you love. Thank you.
And he's going to be terrific, you can bet on it. I also would like to introduce, and this is not an introduction because everybody knows and loves Marlene Varner, who was from here and now is, actually you're director of the Residence Council at Deerfield in Asheville, North Carolina. She is responsible again for the excellence of our publication, known as the NACRA Lifeline, and is a vision in organization and skill as she works from deadline to deadline. Marlene has vast knowledge of all that relates to CCRCs, having lived here as well as in North Carolina. She is truly our lifeline, and if anybody wants to know anything, ask Marlene. She can tell you or she'll find out for you. She's hard at work helping people finish their deadline, 15th of April, income tax, putting it to into the mailbox. So she's just very busy and a very wonderful lady, and I just wanted to give her a few minutes to talk. Welcome you back to Carpenters.
It's great to be back. I still have a lot of people I want to see, and some of the new changes that I have missed so far, I was looking forward to. I really enjoy doing Lifeline. I wasn't sure when Charlie sort of led me down the primrose path, as Charlie is wont to do occasionally with people he says are friends. But it is an interesting challenge. It keeps my brain alive. I do need your help. I need to know when people change apartment numbers. I need to know when people graduate. I don't like to keep sending newsletters to people who aren't there to read them anymore. I need to know when your resident association president changes. I need their name and address. And the same thing is true with the state associations. That's a way to save us money and help us preserve the impression of being a well-organized, well-run operation. And that takes help from all of you who have that information, and don't always assume that somebody else is going to do it. Email is fine. I don't have to have a letter in the mail. You don't have to go to the post office. But that's something that would really help us a lot. I love to receive your newsletters. Some of my material comes from that. I was excited to get one from Virginia the other day and learn that the Goodwin House is another facility which has just added a resident to its board of directors who will be a voting resident. And that's something we're always happy we work very hard on that. That's one of the opportunities that I have in my new position as Resident Association President at Deerfield. I am a voting member of the board of directors. And we work very hard on some of the issues that we've talked about here, the relationship between residents and management. And I've been very pleased at the number of times there has been an email that has gone to the chairman of the board and to me. We know before anybody else when there's an issue that is going to become public, that is a PR problem of some sort, whether it's a resignation of a significant staff member, and so on. So we are making headway and we're still working on it. But we will continue to work on the issue of residents as voting members of boards of directors. I think it's very, very important. One of the things that's happened recently that 3 residents have been named to a new year-long task force at Leading Age on governance. This is a committee with 21 people, 2 staff members, 3 residents, and the rest are CEOs. This is the first time we've had an opportunity with Leading Age to have that kind of resident participation. And our 3 residents are from, I'm from North Carolina, we have 1 from Wisconsin and 1 from California. And we're full participants in this operation, and I think it's definitely a preview of things to come with more resident involvement with Leading Age. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. It's just about time for our lunch to be served. What we're going to do is to move over to the dining area right behind you. And so it's now about 5 of 12, and so if you need to go and wash your hands or anything of that sort. Yes, the chaplain can do that, and it's Bill. Where's Bill?
Ruth, did you want to elect the board?
Yes, we have to do that too, but I just, I have this thing about time. Yeah, go ahead, Bob. We have the, I guess we have time to do this. Yeah, okay, so our nominating committee chair is Beth High, and real quickly, Beth is going to give us her report.
It's intimidating. I've enjoyed being nominating chair. There was no nominating committee at all in the first years of NACRA. And then when my husband was railroaded, I will say, into being a vice president, and he wasn't told vice president for what. And when he found it was vice president for membership, he said, that's not my interest. I don't want to do it. And they wouldn't accept his resignation. I said, I will chair a nominating committee so that we don't have any more railroading. And it has been an interesting experience. This is going on, I think I'm going on 5 or 6 years. I have met a lot of people and over the telephone. A lot of them I don't know by face. And as I have gotten to know people, I take leads from anybody who knows of somebody that they think would be good for our board. And I talk with them and find out what their interests are and what their experiences are. And with this, each year, I think we've gotten a better board. And that is why we now have a board that is working together pretty well most of the time. They do have some discrepancies, but trying to put together a slate of people who are going to work well together is very difficult. And I think they've done beautifully, and I'm proud of the results that we're getting. This year, as you know, they have changed the bylaws. So my nominations are in accordance to the bylaws. Okay, nominations for the NACRA 2013-14 Board of Directors are being presented in accordance with the changes made in the NACRA bylaws, revised and passed by the Board of Directors on February 14, 2013. The new bylaws are being presented to the membership at the annual meeting in Florida on April 5. So they actually haven't been presented yet, but we're doing this inside out. Okay, under the new bylaws, a board of directors of between 9 and 11 directors will be elected. The present board has been asked to continue with several changes. We say goodbye and thank you to Al LeBlanc, who was the secretary, and Julia Hicks, vice president for legislation. Marlene Barna is still the editor of NACRA Lifeline, but this is not an elected position. The new nominees have all been active in NACRA affairs in varying degrees. Additional nominations will be accepted from the floor at the time of the election. Under the new bylaws, the officers will be elected by the officers will be elected by the directors after they are elected. Until that election, Ruth Walsh remains president of NACRA. Bios of the nominees are attached to this report. I have a few copies of the nominees with their bios, so if anybody is interested in that, they may have one. I didn't print them up for everybody. I will read the proposed nominees, and they are all for director. Ruth Walsh, Stone Ridge, Connecticut. state of Connecticut. Judy Moth, Channing House, California. Reverend Robert Nicholson, I want to say Ali Hoa, but I guess there's no, Aljoa. Aljoa. I don't speak California, Western. Anyway, Washington. Jack Cumming, Carlsbad by the Sea, California. Daniel Seeger, Pennswood Village, Pennsylvania. Joseph Walton, Seabury Retirement Community, Connecticut. Walton T. Boyer Jr., Deerfield Episcopal Retirement Community, North Carolina. Charles D. Paulk, Estate at Carpenter, Florida. Ron Herring, The Glebe, Virginia. Now, are there any added nominations from the floor? Yes.
I noticed that Marlene Barter's name is not on there, and she was a former member of the board. She has been our primary communicator for many, many years. Thank you. I'm going to nominate Marlene Varner. She was a former member of the board. She is our primary communicator. She's the editor of the Lifeline. As such, I think we need someone like that knows what's going on in the community around the country on the board, and there's no one that I know of, short of Charlie himself, that knows more than Marlene. And so I think she would be a great member of the board. Now, I have to make one additional comment. Marlene happens to reside in Deerfield, the same place I do, and I recognize that there's a lot of animosity towards nepotism. But in this case, I think brilliance takes precedent, and we need to nominate Marlene to the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that nomination.
We got one
So all
second.
in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Add Marlene's name to the list. And as the new bylaws proclaim, there are no less than 9 nor more than 11 members of the board. So
This
that will
makes
bring
10. This makes 10.
Makes 10, yes. So thank you. Is there a
You want to vote?
to accept these? To accept the nominations as, is there a motion to accept the nominations as presented with that one addition?
So be it.
Bill? Yeah, Bill Fisackerly seconded that motion. Any discussion? Then all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And thank you. And now you have a new board of directors. This is a learning experience for us all as we begin to embark on a new set of amended bylaws, and there's all kinds of possibilities here. One of the other things that Beth said was that from the board composition, the board will name the officers. And there are only 4 officers actually, officially, the president, vice president, or the president-elect, because that's a very important office, secretary and treasurer. We ready? So Bob, Jack, you want to talk to the 4 people who have been nominated for office, or?
Well, I think we can wait, I think we can go to lunch,
Yep.
and the board can just closet somewhere and elect the officers.
All right, very good. So now it is now just about a little after 12. If you quick go to the bathroom, wash your hands, and then we'll go back over yonder. Before we dismiss, ask Bill if he will deliver the blessing for the luncheon. Thank you.
Let us join our hearts together. Oh Lord, we do thank you for the grace that you've given us this day to understand and be a part of a national group that seeks for the betterment of all your children, particularly those of us who are getting close to home. We ask your blessing on us as we share food together, and bless those who are bringing it to us, for we wait for them with joy. Guide us in your love. Amen.
Amen.